familiar faces, and thanks for taking this little pause out of your Monday to join us. My name is Meg Trischler. I'm one of the co-hosts of the Urban Consulate Cincinnati. And also on the call today, although she's hiding behind the screen, is Claire Nelson, the Urban Consulate co-founder, or founder rather, who's down in New Orleans. I also have my fellow co-host, Naima Bilal. You can wave, Naima, if you feel so inclined, on the call. And I think G is on the call as well, G Horton. And we also have some great Detroit co-hosts on the call today, Chase Cantrell and Orlando joining as well. So thanks so much for being willing to join us. For those of you who aren't familiar, the Urban Consulate is essentially a platform for dialogue and cross-city exchange around issues pertinent to cities. And so as we're all trying to navigate what it looks like to do dialogue and exchange in these Corona times, we're exploring some just new ways of thinking about programming, and yeah, eager to try some of these kind of new methods out. So this is a bit of an experiment, so thanks for being willing to join. One of the things that we've been sensing is, there's certainly a good amount of online content you can dial into. I'm sure, like me, many of you have been experiencing some of the Zoom fatigue as well. There's just a lot coming at us, which in one way is wonderful that we have this technology. And at the same time, I think we've been asking ourselves, what does it look like to also shape some more contemplative spaces, sometimes to be together, but be focused less on external dialogue and exchange between one another and more on kind of our inner dialogue and what's happening inside of us. And so that's our intention today, is to step into a practice together that really is a contemplative practice. It's a way of paying attention to what's happening inside us, noticing sort of the inner movements of our heart and kind of what's stirring in us today. And I think just as important as, our action in the world is paying attention to that part of ourselves and responding from the place of heart and not just head. So that's really our intention today, is to engage in a practice together. Some of you I know probably have contemplative practices or are used to these types of settings. Others, maybe you're bravely joining for the first time, to which I say thank you for being willing to do that digitally. And so there's really no huge expectation here except to say, welcome to a practice. There's a reason we call it contemplative practice. It is just that. It's a way to step into something and sort of see where it goes. So with that, the practice that I am going to invite us into today is called lectio. Lectio is a Latin word that means to listen or to hear. One of the ways I think we're used to hearing, of course, is through our ears. But if you're anything like me, you're often thinking about what you're going to say before you're actually really receiving what's being said to you. And so a lectio practice is a way to listen with the heart. It's a way to open ourselves up to not just reading a text, but the way I like to think about it is we're inviting a text to read us, to help us pay attention to really what is happening. And this is done in a number of different ways. It's often done with sacred text or scripture, but we're going to try it today with a poem. This is something I've been exploring with some friends, and it's been a really lovely practice. So I'm going to invite us to share in the reading of a poem called Blessing the Boats by Lucille Clifton. Lucille Clifton is one of my favorite poets. Often in her poetry, she doesn't use punctuation, she doesn't capitalize, she has this brevity that's just really beautiful. She says a lot without saying much, which I think is quite an art form when it can be done well. And so the poem's called Blessing the Boats. It's a short poem. And the way this practice is going to work is I'm going to actually read the poem 5 times, pausing generously in between each reading. And after I read through the poem, I'll prompt you with a couple questions to reflect upon. So the first time I read it, all you have to do is listen. Just sort of let the words wash over you. There's no need to respond. I'll pause, probably taking 20 seconds or 30 seconds to pause. I'll read it a second time. And The second reading, I'm going to invite you to see if you notice a word that jumps out at you, just a single word. I'll pause again. The third reading, I'll invite you to notice if there's a phrase or a couple words that jump out at you. I'll pause again. We'll read it for the fourth time. And the question will be to reflect on, how do you notice the poet? Is there something about the poet that you're noticing? And then on the final reading, I'll invite us to just think about, is there some way that you feel called to respond, or some way that this poem is inviting you to show up in your own life today? And as we move through, I'll prompt those, so you don't have to remember all of that. But that's really the practice. And so again, it's a way of letting text read us. It's a way of opening ourselves to whatever it is that is happening inside of us that we might not even yet know about. And so if you're willing, we're going to engage in this together. And I do invite you, if you're able to be in a space where you don't anticipate much interruption, that's the preferred way to do this. If you have earbuds, that can help. The hope is to try to create a bit of a calm and still setting, so that you really can indeed sort of be present to the activity that's taking place. Before I start, is there any questions? And you can unmute yourself or you can put it in the chat box. Any questions just about sort of the flow or the process? Okay. If at any point you feel like this is not for you and you feel a little uncomfortable, no hard feelings, you can get off the call. If at any point you get disrupted or interrupted, or you feel like your mind just starts to wander, you're not alone. That's part of being human. That's what our brains do. One of the things I find helpful is to just sort of go back to my breath and just notice this sort of inhale and exhale. So I'd like for us to start there. As we sort of step into this practice today, just to feel your butt in the chair or wherever you're seated. Maybe take a couple inhales and exhales. You're all on mute, so you can exhale as loud as you want. No one will notice. But just start to notice that you are indeed in a body. Sometimes I can go the whole day without realizing I'm in a human body. Feet on the floor. Wiggle your toes just to situate yourself to be present to the space that you're in. And just begin to notice. Notice what you sense, what you feel, what might already be active or stirring in you as you try to quiet and calm yourself. You can close your eyes if you're comfortable, or just soften your gaze. Do you notice any particular parts of your body, maybe aches and pains you didn't know that were there? Maybe you feel good, you feel light and fresh. As we move through our practice today, the invitation is not to try to change anything, fix anything, but just to notice. What do you feel? What do you sense? Take one more deep breath. Inhale. And exhale. And hear these words by Lucille Clifton in her poem, Blessing the Boats. May the tide that is entering even now, the lip of our understanding, carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love you back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever. And may you in your innocence sail through this to that. In the second reading, see if there's a word that jumps out at you. See if you notice one word. And as I read it, just try to linger on that word. May the tide that is entering even now, the lip of our understanding, carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love you back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever. And may you, in your innocence, sail through this to that. Often in a lectio practice, the invitation is to share to the room or to the circle if there's a word you've noticed. If you feel prompted to do that, feel free to unmute yourself and just speak it into the room. But you certainly don't have to.
Or beyond my intention.
Sail.
Okay, on our next reading, and if you don't mind just muting yourself there so we can kind of make sure that we create a still space. Thank you so much. On this next reading, see if there's a couple words or a phrase that jump out at you. May the tide that is entering, even now, the lip of our understanding, carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love you back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever. And may you, in your innocence, sail through this to that. So we'll pause here and just notice if there's a phrase that stood out to you on that reading. And again, feel free to just hold that internally, or if you feel the need to share it or feel led to share it, you can do that as well. May the tide that is entering even now, the lip of our understanding, carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love you back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever. And may you, in your innocence, sail through this to that. How does the poet seem to you? How would you describe a quality, a part of her character, her voice? How does this resonate with you? Do you feel similar? Do you feel different? May the tide that is entering even now, the lip of our understanding, carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love you back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever. And may you, in your innocence, sail through this to that. So the question now is, do you sense an invitation in this? Something for your day, something for your week, something for this season that we find ourselves in? Do you feel led to respond in any way? So usually in a lectio practice, one of my favorite things is that, we're in a circle in person. And so we go around and we get to hear how other people are being read by the text that we happen to be reading. And since I'm the one here that kind of has the microphone, I do want to just read. There's some beautiful sharing that's happening on the chat box. So I just want to share those and maybe read them aloud over us. So some words: sail, innocence, lip, certain, water waving, through this to that, love, certain it will love you back, beyond the face of fear, turn from the wind, water waving forever, it will love you back. I'm aware of the possibility for change ahead for the boats/me on their journey. The poet seems to be longing, remembering. The poet seems calm. I'm alert to my environment, ready to flow with what is. Relishing the moment. A suggestion to look from one window to another, facing a different direction. Flow, don't force. A sense of security, even though the that is also unknown. And finally, I feel a call from someone wise and experienced to acknowledge the fear we all feel and let it go. Not without gravity, but with intention to defy the feeling of fear and embrace peace. There's some perceptive and wise people on this call. So as we come to the end of the practice, if your eyes have been closed the whole time, I just invite you to sort of slowly wake yourself up back to the room that you're in. Noticing your feet still planted firmly on the floor, grounded to this earth that we're all grounded to. And just notice your breath. Return to your breath, this life force that's flowing through us all the time, whether or not we notice it. Keeping us going, keeping us moving. All of us here today privileged to have a pulse. These are the things to pay attention to, the moments to notice, small, simple ways to pause in your day and to remember. So usually at the end of this, I would pray. I often feel called to pray. We're all coming from different traditions, so I will resist the temptation. But I do want to say thank you for joining. I mentioned to Claire that part of I think the fun of these types of processes is again an opportunity to kind of share and process together. So I'm going to hang out on the call for a bit. If anyone feels led to share about their experience, what they liked, what they didn't like, if it was hard, if it was awkward, love to stay on the call and share. We can do that as a group or not. So that's really it. That's our practice today. I do want to say just a plug for the Urban Consulate, as we're kind of reshaping what it means to be together in this time, like so many of us are. We do have a couple of things coming up on May 5th. Our Detroit friends, Lauren Hood and Chase Cantrell, are hosting a conversation around what new questions are emerging for you in this moment, which is such a good question. 7 p.m. Those two wonderful humans will be hosting a conversation. Oops, I just got your internet connection's unstable. I hope you all can still hear me. And then Urban Consulate Cincinnati, save the date. On May 11th, we'll be hosting a Zoom conversation. Naima will be guiding us with the wonderful Cincinnati-based Eileen Cooper-Reed, who is just a wisdom teacher and a sage in her own right. And we're going to be really, it's going to be more of a participatory experience, but looking at what's possible in this moment. What are the things that we feel called to do or how to be in this current moment, specifically in our community. So stay tuned for those as well. And we always like feedback, so please get in touch. But I think that's it from me. And again, I'll hang out on the call. If anyone wants to unmute themselves and just share a little bit about how their experience was, I would love that. Otherwise, thank you and blessings for your day.